Have you ever heard of Joomla? You might not hear its name as much these days, but it's this award-winning powerhouse in the world of website creation. Today, we're going to dive into its incredible story, its revolutionary birth, its time at the absolute top, and its ongoing fight to stay relevant. It's a real roller coaster of community, conflict, and sheer survival.
All right, so first, a super quick refresher. Joomla is what's called a content management system, or a CMS. The easiest way to think about a CMS is like the engine of a website. It's the software that lets you, or me, publish articles, upload photos, or run a whole online store, all without needing to be some kind of coding genius. It's the backbone for millions of sites out there. And when I say millions, I really mean it. According to the Joomla project itself, it powers over 2 million websites across the globe. That is a massive digital footprint. And here's the kicker. It's all built and maintained by a global community of volunteers. So yeah, this is no small, forgotten project, not by a long shot.
And that, right there, brings us to the central puzzle of this whole story. If you've got millions of active sites and over 100 million downloads, how is it that your popularity has been on a downward trend for years? To figure that out, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning.
You see, the story of Joomla isn't just about lines of code. It's about a community, and it's about a fight for an ideal. It was literally born from a rebellion. So picture this. It's 2005. The developers of this CMS called Mambo are having a huge falling out with the company that owns the trademark. The developers felt like the corporate side of things was violating the whole spirit of open source software. So what do? In a move that was just incredibly bold, the entire core team, they just walked away. They forked the code and decided to start something completely new. That right there just shows you the passion behind this thing.
And the name they chose for their new project? Joomla. It's based on the Swahili word Joomla, which means all together. It was basically a mission statement. This was going to be a project built by the community, for the community, as a whole. And you know what? For a long time, that philosophy took them right to the top.
That community spirit was like rocket fuel. In the late 2000s, Joomla wasn't just another CMS option. It was a dominant, absolute force on the internet.
If you pull up the old Google Trends data, you can see it clear as day. Around 2009 or 2010, interest in Joomla just exploded. It was a golden age. The project was a true giant, going toe-to-toe with the biggest names on the web. But that peak was followed by a pretty long and difficult journey down.
So the very project that was born from this powerful, unified community, well, it soon found itself facing some deep, deep challenges that would pretty much define its next decade.
The years that followed were rough. The project was just hammered by constant leadership changes, serious disagreements within the community about which way to go, and even a financial controversy that ended with its president resigning. And as if that wasn't enough, a data breach in 2020 exposed thousands of users' details, which, as you can imagine, really shook people's confidence.
And if you want a perfect snapshot of all these struggles, look no further than the development of Joomla 4. This was supposed to be the next big thing, right? Well, it took 6 years to finally get it out the door. The whole process was just bogged down by delays and something called feature creep, where more and more stuff gets added, and it created this huge gap between the core developers and the actual users who just wanted a stable product.
Okay, so where does all of that leave Joomla today? Well, this is where it gets interesting, because there are kind of two completely different stories being told at the same time.
So on one side, you have the official story from Joomla's own website. And the stats are impressive. Millions of downloads, millions of websites, and it's all volunteer-driven. But then you look at the public record, places like Wikipedia, and they describe a project with a continuing downward trend, one that's now stuck in a pretty small niche and maybe isn't the best fit for big companies. The weirdest part? Both of these stories are true.
But look, the project is still moving. Joomla 4 did finally launch in 2021, and version 5 came out in 2023. The problem was, these new versions had some really strict technical needs, which made upgrading a huge headache for a lot of people. So, not everyone jumped on board right away, and even some of its own developers were critical. The plan now is for version 6, coming in 2025, which is supposed to make things simpler with automated update.
So what's the bottom line here? Joomla is still a really powerful and capable tool. There's no doubt about that. But its journey is this fascinating, almost cautionary tale. It just goes to show how incredibly difficult it is to manage a massive, global, all-volunteer project.
trying to balance new ideas with keeping things stable, and channeling all that community passion into something that actually works long-term.
And that really leaves us with one last big question. In a web that moves at the speed of light, Joomla's story makes you wonder, how can any community-driven project keep that initial fire and passion alive while also building the kind of structure you need to survive? It's a huge challenge, and it's one that pretty much every open source project has to face.